Hello everybody, welcome to episode 7. Today we're looking at Pitch Black Heist, directed by McLean, UK 2012, with a 13-minute runtime. If you're finding this useful, please hit like, subscribe and the notification bell for me. Pitch Black Heist is available through Vimeo from UK FilmNet. If you watch the film at the link in the description below, we'll then go on and analyse it, and you can then consolidate that with a second viewing. Some of my former students have used Pitch Black Heist as inspiration for a monochromatic noir dynamic in their own film. We open with a crane shot down onto some boxes that are mocking out the layout of the Pitch Black Heist. And I think that this trope of a crane shot evokes the idea of somebody in a heist film coming down on a rope, having to move around through the lasers. We've got films like Mission Impossible where Tom Cruise comes down on a rope like that to avoid pressure-sensitive sensors, or we have films like The Thomas Crown Affair where the painting that was allegedly stolen or had been stolen is actually hidden in plain sight all the time as a palimpsest, something that's painted over before rigging a smoke bomb to make the sprinkler go off allows that to be washed away and revealed. Here we get the crane shot establishing this mock-up of the layout. We then get the two characters talking and the one character forgetting the name of the other. So this establishes protagonists who don't know one another. And he gets the name wrong, and then he's pretty bungling and says, "Oh, are we actually using our real names?" The ultimate twist being that Fassbender's character is the son of the other character, but he is setting up his father, unbeknownst to the father that there is a family dynamic between the two of them. So that thematically resonates early on in our establishment of the protagonists. The father character then arranges these biscuits in a phallic shape, so we get the idea that he's something of a joker and he's not very serious. And then we get them rehearsing through these boxed mock-out layouts, blindfolded, a little bit like Catherine Zeta-Jones' character in Entrapment, if you happen to have seen that 1999 film. Within this theme of the father figure being outdated, he talks about wanting to go for real jewels, not effing USB drives. He is out of his depth and out of his era, and the son character is going to use that to his advantage. There's a brilliant extreme close-up of Fassbender's character walking through the scene in terms of numbers of steps with his fingers up to the chalk cubes in the pub while they await news of whether they're going on to do that. Protagonists are established furthermore with this scene where they're smoking marijuana, and Fassbender rather incongruently overshares about his being abandoned by his father. The father still doesn't clock the realisation that this is his son and says, "Gosh, I wish I hadn't asked." And then we get this brilliant miming sequence where Fassbender starts to mime and the lighting is quite ethereal as the two play snooker, and the father starts to mime along too. They arm wrestle whilst the phone goes to reveal that the heist is on. And then in the blackout of the heist, the father says, "You know, that song that you were playing, I used to have that record in Ireland." And he starts to make the connection and realisation as Fassbender triggers the light-triggered alarm by lighting a cigarette and we're left with the father being set up and abandoned. So I've just given an example there of how you might use those top boxes on how you could use some of these narrative or aesthetic ideas in considering black and white for my hypothetical film, but maybe it will be too trite or cliched. You could use Premiere Pro to apply a saturation of colour or a colour grading if you so wished. It's got to be done well and for a purpose for it to be worth it without coming over as a cliche. We establish the protagonists through them discussing this light-triggered alarm system. They're making tea and the dad character lays out the biscuits as phallic to establish his style. That he can't cope, he's an old-timer, he doesn't like these modern targets of USBs versus jewels. And we get the backstory of the childhood abandonment whilst they're smoking weed or marijuana or what have you. Location and setting is established through the layout of the boxes for the theft and plotting out with the fingers and the chalk cube sequence. They don't know each other. There's something enigmatic in that. That's established early on. Are we using our own names and mistaking the names? At least the father's mistake, not the son, who, unbeknownst, is being set up by the son. The confirmation of the heist being on whilst beating him in an arm wrestle foreshadows this. The miming along to the same song foreshadows this. The crisis, they go through the tent with no light, blocking the light out, to this blackout scene of just sound and dialogue with no vision. And it returns to him making connections to that backstory, whereby the resolution, if you didn't see it coming, was that the old man is the father. He's been set up for the abandonment of the child. So you may or may not find monochrome inspiring, but it's an example of the sort of aesthetic inspiration that you might take. I thought that Motown miming sequence was really compelling as well. And the sound and the dialogue with no vision. But they're things that have to be done well. Inspiration that you might take for parallel stories or non-linear narrative could be the way that some of those things like the miming, like the discussion over the cigarette, like the overshare about details of childhood abandonment, lead to that crisis point in the blackout and are useful inspiration in terms of building narrative structure. Do consolidate it for yourself with a second viewing and fill in my boxes and my grids in your own time to come up with inspiration and ideas for your own. I will see you next time for our final episode on the short films, where I'll be looking at high maintenance. And then beyond that, I want to have a look at some practical suggestions for your own shooting and editing, and how you are going to follow the conventions for storyboards and screenplay writing, and come up with creative ideas of your own. If this is useful, please hit like and subscribe. Please hit the notification bell, and I will see you next time.